And good afternoon. We are here on Let's Talk Real Talk on Parent Alienation and the Legislative Summit in the USA. With our special guest today, we have Joan Kloth-Zanard and Phillip Hendrix. Phillip is from Colorado, and Joan is from not California,
Connecticut.
Connecticut. I always forget. Joan is our repeat offender here for the state. She comes out, who helps many people out there worldwide. So today I'm going to have both of them talk about the legislative summit. Since yesterday I did the Ontario Attorney General interview, I think it's important for us to understand both sides of the borders. Um, Political view on parental alienation and stuff, because it's very crucial that we know where we stand in these things. So welcome, Joan and Phillip. Thank you for coming to Let's Talk Real Talk. So Joan, tell us a little bit about yourself before you get Phillip to give us a brief on how parental alienation and the legislative summit fits into the category today.
I've just been doing this work for over 35 years, helping families with custodial interference, parental alienation, whatever you want to call it. I really don't care anymore. It's more important that
It's very
fix
crucial.
it, that we fix it and make sure that all parents have a chance to be a parent in their children's lives. I do run two nonprofits, one of them Pass Intervention, which has been around for probably the longest of all the nonprofits. And then recently, over about a year and a half ago, I picked up running the PA Consortium, which is an umbrella organization. And I'll leave that to Phillip to kind of fill in.
Okay.
Hi, Mary. The
Hi,
the
Phillip.
the Parental Alienation Consortium, PA Consortium, is as Joan alluded to, a collaborative effort between the various organizations that are striving to protect their children and their families. It's not intended to replace or demote any other organization, but rather to serve as a means of communication and collaboration, so that we can act as a unified voice. And that was the whole intent of the legislative summit that we're hosting this October. And that will take place in Southbury, Connecticut, the first weekend in October. And the whole idea is that we pursue legislation that will benefit families that find themselves in the middle of this crisis. We thought for so long about how can we make a difference. Each individual and each agency and institution and organization that is fighting this cause has for so long not made a huge difference. When all is said and done, it's like sticking your hand in a pail of water and you pull it out and you find that there's no hole left. So what we're trying to do is go on the offensive, if you will, be a little more assertive in our efforts. And that was the genesis of the legislative summit. We need to make a difference in the lives of these families and the children that are caught in the middle.
In addition to what Phillip's saying is that, we have for a long time been on the defensive. Every time the other side puts out legislation, we're on the defensive trying to correct the issues that are causing problems. We want to be on the forefront, to be on the offensive, where we're creating legislation that is not only palatable to the alienating families and the organizations that work with them, but even the opposition who keeps demeaning things and trying to claim that there isn't a problem, that the issues are not, that parental alienation and custodial interference and coercive control are only specific to one gender. So we're trying to make sure that what we create is going to be universally accepted around the world. We're trying to create templates that for various different pieces of legislation that can be tailored to fit any state and in any country.
That's right. And you're coming into Canada with that as well, because I mean, we do help people in the US, the UK. We're trying to get it so that it's global, because we're all being treated the same. And, you know, the profit is marginable. Like, you know, if they could put $10 billion into our court system to make it better, this is a quote, the $10 billion is going to be put into our court system. Where is that $10 billion coming from in Ontario? You know, I mean, the profit that these courts are making, it needs to be recognized that it's not just profitable through the court system, it's through our children.
Well, I think where we're going to focus is going to be things like legislation on custodial interference and making sure that there is proper protocol in place. We're trying to get legislation to make sure that there's proper training for our police, our professionals, our experts, our judges, our courts. We are working on making sure that false allegations are dealt with, but we're not overlooking true domestic violence issues. We need better training that can recognize the difference. We have about, Philip, I think there's 3 main areas and an additional 5 or 6 pieces of legislation that could be incorporated into the 3 main, or that may remain as separate. What we're asking people to do is come to the table with us, come to this summit, and sit and listen to our Saturday set of speakers who are going to teach us about the history of legislation. They're going to teach us about how to approach legislators and the media, what's important, how to write these legislations, how to get them in front of the right people. And then we're going to sit down and we're going to spend Sunday and Monday literally taking various pieces of legislation and fine-tuning them, writing them, getting in all the points and pieces that we feel are important, and hoping that we're not going to step on many toes doing it, that the legislation will be passable as is, with very fine tweaking.
We want them to support us. We don't want to be pushing them away, right? And if we can get them to support, because here we don't need to have riots or anything like that. What we need is education. We need to teach them on what's happening out in this world today with our children and the courts. Families are dying, you know, elderly are getting elderly. They're passing without seeing their children, or the children are finding them on their deathbeds. And it's, you know, the sooner the better. We need to, you know, stop this happening right away in the court system, so that the kids can have both parents at the same time. Why would they have to be punished for it? You know? So,
Mary, science and all the data from various research over the last 20, 30 years in particular has shown us that parental alienation is a form of child abuse, and it's also a form of intimate partner violence against the other parent.
Absolutely.
We are hoping to codify that. There's so much misinformation and lack of understanding about parental alienation. Another effort is, as Joan said, is that we hope to address false allegations of abuse, long known as the silver bullet, and this applies for both genders.
Mm-hmm.
The silver bullet is applied when you get a protective order of some kind, a restraining order for the other parent, and it ties their hands and they're unable to, in essence, engage in the fight for their child. And it's not only just demonstrably unfair, it's actually criminal. When you make false allegations against someone, that's perjury. That's filing false police reports. It's any number of things that can be applied criminally. And then the third area that we're hoping to address in this summit is a presumption of rebuttable shared parenting. And that all the data is with that as well, showing us that children do better when they have more or less equal time with each parent. Now, this is after that we've applied the various filters and screening tools to say whether or not the child is in danger or one parent has been abusive, truly abusive, and things such of that. But beyond that, children need and do better when they have free access to both of their parents. So we're hoping to codify these into law. These legislative templates that we hope to produce will be applicable to various states within the US and to various countries around the world. We do have representation from from people from other countries. And so we're hoping to address this from a global perspective. And everybody will walk away with templates, or we'll be able to send them out readily so that they can, within their own jurisdiction, then move that effort forward and hopefully push legislation in their jurisdiction to bring about change, long needed change in these areas of focus.
Yeah, I think it's important for all sides to recognize this isn't a gender issue, and we've got to stop making everything about the genders and how men are worse than women or women are worse than men. It doesn't really matter. It boils down to the actual problem itself, and that problem itself, be it domestic violence, false allegations, shared parenting, parental alienation, it's not genderized. It's raceless, it's colorless. In fact, it's odorless. You can't even smell it coming. And we want to make sure that we've got the right legislation in place that's going to help with the proper training, that's going to help put proper oversight in there. And we can only do that by having everybody come to the table and work on these templates in October. We really need people to speak and to be a part of this process. One of the biggest issues, I think, is the false allegations, because from the statistics, from the domestic violence statistics, from the federal government statistics, from the family court organizations that are fighting to prevent false allegations, the statistics show that 90% of all the allegations are pretty much false, which is a very big problem because it gums up the works. It takes away time, money, and resources. We're not saying that domestic violence doesn't exist. What we're saying is the true domestic violence cases aren't getting the respect and the help they need because all the resources have been wasted on false allegations. This
That's
has
right.
to stop. And to do that, we really have to have some better things in place. Like, I love it when these parents come out and say, well, the abusive parent's getting the children. Well, clearly you didn't prove that the other parent was abusive, because if you actually had solid, verifiable evidence, then that other parent would not be seeing the kid unsupervised. They would be in therapeutic supervised visitation, just like in an intact family. You would have the proof. But if you don't have the proof and all you're doing is just making a statement, then there is no abuse. The abuse is the false allegation, actually.
That's right. And many of us go through that. It's not just one or two out of the haystack. You're finding thousands and thousands. I mean, I was falsely arrested twice to never see my kids in 19 years. I went to jail. I mean, I lost everything, the house, the kids, kicked to the curb, homeless.
And it takes a
And,
lot of
it's hard
strength.
on a parent who doesn't know how to handle it or to deal with it. And this is where they become, so down that they commit suicides or murder suicides. They steal the child. I mean, they're driven to commit something evil, not
And
because
that
they want to. It's because they're forced to, and that makes the court cases even worse. They take the child, they jump over a cliff because they don't want the other parent to have the child. So no one will get the child. That's not a good way of thinking. So this legislative thing that, that needs to be recognized is also with mental health issues, dealing with what we're going through, right?
Believe it or not, just because somebody has a mental health issue doesn't mean they're not a good parent, that they don't love their kids. Okay? So we need to remember that when somebody's mentally ill, that doesn't mean we can't give them therapeutic supervised visitation and help them to work their way to unsupervised visitation. You know,
Yes.
if they're fighting for their kids, they clearly love their kids. The parent, and I'm not saying that parents who walk away don't love their kids. Some walk away because they love them so much they can't see putting their kids through this anymore. It works both ways.
Mm-hmm.
And with legislation, the hope is we're going to put some better oversight and pieces in place that will prevent these kind of breakdown of the family unit.
Right.
If these were intact families, most of this would never be allowed and they would be handled completely differently. If this was an intact family and one parent was having a breakdown, they wouldn't remove that parent from the family. They would get all sorts of resources and help in there. If we had one parent who was abusing the children in an intact family, they wouldn't necessarily break the family apart. They would make sure that parent was in appropriate counseling, that the children were getting counseling to understand how to navigate and negotiate and protect themselves. They wouldn't be taking the family and ripping them apart. We need to start thinking as if this was an intact family. What would the protocol be?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I want to ask a question. I had a phone call and it knocked down my volume. I don't know how to turn it up, so I'm really struggling to hear you guys. Do you know if that happens, how do I reset my volume? Because I can't get it up. It's
It won't
really
go up. Well, you just went up just now a little bit doing something.
okay.
Now
If you could just speak up a little bit, it might be better.
okay. I have mine as loud as it'll go.
Okay. So,
It's the input on your end.
so when is this summit happening?
October 4th through the 7th. The 4th is a Friday. We realize that many people have Jewish holidays or are Jewish and they can't travel till after 5 o'clock, which is why the bulk of everything is Saturday, Sunday, and Monday.
Oh, okay.
So Friday night is kind of a get together, meet and greet. Saturday, we start at 8 in the morning. We are covering, if you're registered, you will be covered for breakfast, lunch, and dinner on Saturday. Friday, we will pay for the appetizers wherever we're eating. Again, Saturday, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That's the day that we're going to do most of our lecturing and hear from most of our experts so that we can be better knowledgeable as we sit down to create legislation. Sunday, we cover for breakfast and lunch. The first hour, maybe hour and a half, we may have an additional piece of lecture that really hones in on the writing aspect of writing the legislation. We will work through the day. On Sunday morning, we are covering breakfast, and we will finish if there's anything that needs to be finished, and then we will have each group kind of go through what their legislation is. And
that's Monday morning.
I'm sorry. Thank you for correcting me. Monday morning. And then we will hopefully have finished product that everybody can either go home with or that we will be sending out to everybody.
That's pretty good.
You can register for virtual. The only problem with virtual is you will only have access Saturday and Sunday morning, unless we have enough virtual people who want to work on one piece of legislation in a breakout group. We will work to put that together
on a virtual basis.
Everybody else is live.
Oh, wow. So how many people are allowed on the virtual?
That probably is not as that big of a deal. Maybe I would imagine we'll probably not have more than 10 people. But, if each person's putting in a little something, like, for example, if the people on the virtual end decide to specifically discuss parental rights and the issues and the constitutional violations, then that would be the legislation they would work on. or they may have something on the virtual end there. One of the leaders there has a specialty in that they've already written something up on, and maybe that's what they will work on. But they will all work in a breakout group
Right.
via Zoom. For
Okay.
one legislation. And the rest of us will be working live in person at the summit.
So you both will be there?
Yes.
Wonderful. Wow. Wow. Live?
Yes. Live.
Live
We'll
and
be,
in person.
yeah.
Wow.
Live and in
Good for
person.
you.
That's right.
Good for you. Wow.
So I'm Philip. Is there some more things? I mean, we can mention some of the speakers that we are intending on
Right.
having. Robert Garza, Mark Ludwig is not sure if he can physically make it. He may have to be virtual. Julie Grayson will be there. Brian Ludmer, Larry DeMarco is our MC and will provide a little history. Brain fart. Philip.
Brian Ludmer.
Yeah.
He's from Toronto. He's like
Oh,
20
Sean
minutes from me.
Liggett will be there. Lynn Steinberg, Catherine Ray. We've got a pretty
Catherine
good
Ray
lineup.
as well.
Yes, we've got a
Wow.
pretty good lineup of
She's
people.
also Canadian, right?
She
Well,
is.
Yes, and that's why we told people, look, this is global what we're trying to do, because once we have the templates, anybody can take it to their state or their country and tailor it to their needs. Because we're going to use shared parenting for an example. Some states have a version of shared parenting. And so when they take the shared parenting template, they may not need to put everything in there because some of those laws may already be in place. Or they may be able to take the template and amend the present legislation in their state with this template. But it's going to provide all the necessary ingredients that they might need to use.
Right. Well, my second phone call just knocked the volume back in, so now I don't have to strain myself. I was reading the notes as you're talking on another device. They're not really compatible to phones. So, but anyways, yeah, that's an amazing list of people out there. I mean, most of them came on to Let's Talk Real Talk over the years. So, it's good to see that they're still sticking together on what they know and want to educate the world with, right?
Yep,
As
I think even Linda Gottlieb will be showing up for this too.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
As
Yeah.
as an example of the kind of presentation, we have current president of PASG. We're having his presentation. That's Dr. Bill Burnett. His presentation about misinformation from National Parent Organization, NPO. We're having a presentation that they created that has to do with the shared parenting. And then we have, Joni mentioned Robert Garza and others who will share with us their experiences of the legislative process. So, how to write law and how to speak to your legislative representative and things such as that. So we're trying to lay a foundation here to give people the tools and equip them to be able to move these legislative templates forward in their own jurisdiction.
Yeah, we even will have somebody speaking about how to deal with apathy, because one of the things we find is people aren't showing up at the legislative office buildings to speak up. Is it because they're afraid? We don't know. There's numerous things, but how to deal with that apathy will also be
Right.
discussed.
Yeah, you need that because a lot of people don't know how, right?
It was a big problem with the California bill. Nobody
Yes.
showed up, and Lynn and Ron Burglas and a couple of others really did a lot of work and felt like nobody was backing them except for people who were virtual.
Right.
And the same was true here in the state capitol with the legislation that passed here in Colorado. The same kind of thing. There were not enough people representing our side of it. Yeah.
Yeah. I just went to a seminar myself in Toronto, and it was the same thing. There's a handful of people in the room. I mean, opportunities are there for people to, further educate themselves and help them deal with a lot of these issues. So I think it in person is much better than virtual, to tell you the truth, because you get a better sense of the feel, the emotions and everything else that comes with this, because this is not something you could just write down on a piece of paper, right? People's lives are at stake.
It has to come from the heart, and
That's
it's okay
right.
to share your personal experience, but this is going to require that in mass, that people, parents who have been through and fought these battles, they need to stand up and speak out.
Yep. And that's, I think,
Absolutely.
is I know that here in Connecticut in 2014, 300 parents came out to testify about the broken system. And every one of them that had an open family court case got retaliated against by the
Yes,
attorney, by the system. And I think that could be part of what they're afraid of. But then they need to put it on their record that they
yes,
fear retaliation, so that it's open and on the record. Um,
absolutely. You
after
know,
that,
I'm feeling it on the podcast too. I mean, this is 3 years I've been doing this, and I've had so many people that were so adamant to be on here, and then all of a sudden they disappeared because they can't talk, because they've been silenced, they've been gag ordered. I mean, their lives have been threatened. Some of them had me take down their videos.
Mhm.
It's just horrific what a parent goes through even after losing the child. So this needs to be, you know, we need your help.
Well, let me throw this out there, Mary. How does one register? They go to paconsortium.org is our website, paconsortium.org/events. And on that page, there is a link for them to register. There's still time at this point, but they need to do so quickly.
Okay. So PA Consortium, I hope I spelled that right. I'll add it after. I can't see right now. It's but I'll add it in there. paconsortium.ca.
.org /
Dot
.org.
Okay.
O-R-G.
Okay. All right.
And if they go to the /events page, they can actually see more information about the summit itself and how to register.
Okay. I know you emailed me that information, Joan, but I got blocked from it. And I haven't had a chance to let you know about it, but I've been trying to get in because some things in Canada are being blocked for us.
Will you tell
So
me, just email me, okay?
I
And
will. I
I'll
will.
email you the link. I also have a 20+ page booklet of things to do in the area. So if you want to come and spend a little extra time, it's going to be the fall. The leaves will hopefully start to be changing. And there's a lot to do in the Southbury, Connecticut area. Literally, I have a 20+ page book with over, I can't even count how many things are on there, broken down into so many areas. So that's also another piece. There is information on the airports and accommodations in the area. So, please, we have done a lot of work here, and we feel that it's the parents and the professionals. It's time we got together, we speak up, show our global unity so that they stop trampling all over us.
Stand up and
Exactly.
speak out.
That's
Yep.
right. And
Speak out.
I don't know how much louder I can speak out, but I'm not going to give up for the future of my grandchildren and the future of everybody else's grandchildren. It's got to stop. It's got to
Mary,
stop.
that's why we have to stop relying on individual voices and
Yes,
start speaking as a collective voice. And that's the whole intent behind the PA Consortium.
that's right. That's amazing. We're so glad that, that this can happen.
We should give a little history. The PA Consortium was begun by Dr. Jennifer Harmon. She had to take a sabbatical from it and turned it
Right.
over to me. And I brought in Phillip and Brian Ludmer, Tina Mayer, and we have a couple other people that are in and out that we are putting on the board, which is another thing. There is a consideration that we would like to be doing these legislative summits every year. And we are
Mhm.
going to look for people who want to be on the board and really doing the work to get this global incentive and initiative going so that we are working as a unified world force.
So if people want to get a hold of you, Joan, would they go to your PAS intervention page?
Okay, so if they want to contact me about the legislative event, it's probably better to go to info@paconsortium.org. I believe that's the correct spelling.
Info at
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
paconsortium.org.
PA Consortium.
Mm-hmm.
How do you spell consortium?
CONSORTIUM.
TU.org.
Mm-hmm.
And there it is.
Yep.
Okay, so that's up on the page. And if they were to email you directly, this is where they would email you.
Yep. They can email it directly that way, or they can use the Gmail, which is paconsortium2021@gmail.com. 2021 was the year the consortium was established.
So PA Consortium at
No, paconsortium2021 at
2021 21
at
at.
gmail.
Okay.
That's just an alternate if their system doesn't allow them to reach out to domains. So some systems don't allow domain directing.
Okay, so that's gmail.com, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. So that's good. And they can get a hold of you too, Phillip, there?
Through the same email address.
Okay. So they would just address it to you, or does it matter?
It doesn't matter.
Okay. Well, that's good. So a little bit of background on how far you've come this way to be here today. How has your health been? And like the struggles that you've gone through? I mean, parents need a break in between, right? They can't just keep fighting and fighting and fighting. We need to give our bodies a break. So,
Well,
Joan, how did you find your struggle, your journey to come to this?
I think that whether it's my struggle or Philip's struggle or anybody else's struggle, it is important to take care of your mind and your body. You do need breaks. You do need to exercise. You don't need to be a triathlon athlete. You know my saying, HHSS, happy, healthy, successful, spiritually positive. You got to live by that because it's exactly what the alienator doesn't want in the first place. If your happiness, you have the right to enjoy your life, healthy, it has to do with your mind and your body, and taking care of them. Success is not about how much money you make. It's about enjoying what you do, whether it be a hobby, your work, whatever it is. And spiritually positive, it's not religion. It's really believing in yourself and that you are a good person. When you have this, you have everything that the alienator doesn't want because you've got control of your life back. And the more control, the less control they have. The less control they have, the more out of control they get. To get the control back, the more obvious it becomes who the problem is. Because we are seeing way too many of our experts and professionals, they're aging out.
Mm-hmm.
They are getting ill. Madison's just announced that she needed time off.
She's young. She's still a young girl, just starting life.
Mm-hmm.
And to be an alienated adult child, I see her struggles that my ex-husband went through, and I was there to help him through it. But they don't want, it's not Maddie doesn't want help, but my ex didn't want help. And that's the problem, though, where they don't want help.
You have to remember, Mary, when you're dealing with a narcissist, They've been raised to believe they're perfect, because if they're not perfect, then they're not lovable. If they're not lovable, they're going to be abandoned. If they're abandoned, they're alone. This terrifies them. So they cannot go to therapy, because to go to therapy means they have to admit they're not perfect. And the only other
Right.
reason to go to therapy is to prove that they are the perfect parent.
Right. And Maddie is
No
the
such
opposite.
thing.
Maddie is the opposite of what we're trying to educate people, that there are people that don't want help. And then there are people like Maddie who needs she knows how to heal. She wants help to heal. Whereas another one was, all therapists are quacks. Why would they say that? Because they don't want help.
No, they can't. I just told you they can't
Well,
ask help, because it means
well,
they're
they
not
can't.
perfect.
No, but if you're helping them, trying to get them into therapy, like couples therapy, it doesn't work for them.
No,
Why
you
take them? They're only going to create more chaos, and then things start getting stirred up because you're letting out the cat out of that bag.
not the right person who's going to help that narcissist. They have to be very well trained in narcissistic
Right.
personality disorders.
And that's what I'm
is a
saying.
issue that our mental health community does not really know how to treat cluster B personalities, bipolar, manic depressive, and narcissists. And
Right.
so we try to get them into therapy, they're using the wrong type of therapeutic treatment with them, which is why it backfires.
Exactly.
We need more research on this. And
Yes.
that's just not done yet.
It's not because they're just starting to recognize what victims or survivors of domestic abuse are saying, that went through the court system to be
And I think this is a good place for us to kind of end in telling people, please take care of yourself.
yes.
Make
Yes.
sure you are in seeing a therapist to deal with the things that upset
Separately.
you. Demons.
Yes.
Make sure you're exercising and taking care of yourself so that you can be there for your kids.
Mary, when I started my long journey many years ago now, the best piece of advice I got from my then pastor said, don't let anger get the best of you, because it will chew you up and spit you out. It's not about the other person, it's about you.
That's right.
And I remember those words, and I had followed those, and that's one of the few things that allowed me to survive this long process.
Thank
So
you.
I'm the same as well. My children turned 18 and I stepped back. I thought, you know what? You're 18. You can go and do what you want. I raised them till they were close to that age, all three of them. But once they stepped out of the realm of being a child, I stepped into the realm of healing myself so that they could come to me knowing that I was, okay with them being with their father. It didn't matter, but I didn't want them to think that I was the abusive one when, they were brainwashed to say whatever they want to say to get away from that parent, to be with the abusive parent because they're scared of being punished, right? So
it also goes for the children. And I think
that's what I'm saying. It's the children that have to go to the abusive parent.
No. The children also need to be able to take care of themselves and know how to. And
Yes.
it's something that we are not teaching them either. But I think, again, great place to end today. I know Philip's got an appointment to go to. I do too. We want people to get to this legislative conference, or summit rather, and we want you to also remember HHSS. Let the anger go. Take care of yourself so you can be here for your children. Mary, we lost you.
Mary?
I think she lost it. She probably lost the connection. Oh, there she
Sorry,
is.
my apologies. I was checking the message and it just went off.
Yeah, probably not a good thing to do when you're on the video.
No, I just didn't know which one of you sent me a message there.
It should probably pop up as a private chat like it does on mine.
Yeah, it did. So I wanted to see what it said, but I thought maybe you had something to say. But anyway, sorry about that. So
again, a perfect place for us to end today. take care of yourselves. Remember to be, the HHSS, and to put that anger aside, and come to the legislative summit and be a part of history here.
Right.
Help us make a difference.
Yep.
Go to paconsortium.org/events and register for the legislative summit, the first weekend in October, to take place in Southbury, Connecticut.
We look forward
Do
to
you have a flyer that we could share?
Yes, I will
Yeah.
get to you. You just
Okay.
email me and I'll send it to you.
Okay, send it to me and I'll share that out to all our viewers and attach whatever I can to it for information to contact you both. And, I'd love to be there. I'm not sure if I could make it. If I can make it online, I will. But I'd love to go down to Connecticut, is it in, or Colorado?
It's in Connecticut.
Connecticut.
Southbury, Connecticut.
It's about
Okay.
an hour south of Hartford.
Oh, okay. Wow. Okay. Well, thank you so much for the
Mary,
both of you.
thank you. We
You're
appreciate
welcome.
Thank you, Mary. Have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
weekend, everybody.
Yeah, don't jump off yet. Thank you to all the viewers out there, alienated moms, dads, grandparents, children, all professionals out there. Reach out to us for any information about this program today. It's very important, the Legislative Summit in the U.S. It's important here in Ontario, too, as we've got Canadian professionals going out to this as well. So this is like a global problem that we need to solve. So if you can make it, get out there and support Joan Kloth-Zanard and Phillip Hendrix and everyone else out there. This would be great. We could end all these problems today. So thank you, everybody, and we'll see you on Sunday night on Let's Talk Real Talk. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.